Hope you're having a great day. Learning something today? I know. Come on, let's go. Round of applause. We need some energy now. It's 2:20, right? Could be 4:20. It's not. It's 2:20. So a reminder tonight, first annual Grow Up Awards Gala at Greg Fruin Theater. Greg is going to be performing a magic act as well. And of course, we're going to be honoring the mighty Ed Rosenthal into the Growers Hall of Fame, the first inductee. And there is going to be a double-decker bus that is going to be leaving from the convention center, also the Radisson and the Marriott hotels. And also tonight, VIP networking party at 8 p.m., same location, Greg Fruin Theater here in Niagara Falls. So I also want to remind you of this because it is later in today at 4:10. Annette Barron's going to be here and give a keynote presentation that's going to cover the trends, that's going to shape the industry and the key success factors to incorporate in building the next wave of consumer products and service brands. So you're going to want to make sure and check out that presentation at 4:10. So, Frenchy dreams of hashish, creating a quality-focused market in the post-legalization world. Here he is, without further ado, Frenchy.
Yeah!
Thank you. Cannabis appellation. So, I come from France, and for us, appellation is everything. Appellation, it's a national heritage. And it all started with a wine. And most people think that the wine industry, at least I did, I thought that wine was born good and French made it great. And it's much more than that. The oldest archaeological evidence is 8,000 years old. And fermentation, it's magic. We didn't know what was fermentation until the late 1800s. So for the longest time, it was basically considered a gift from the god. And very few people had actually access to it. Then through time, it became in use mostly in cities, and it kept that good aspect. It became a sacramental wine for Christianism. But at the same time, wine was also a medicine. And it was the only way to sanitize water. That means that for thousands of years, the whole Western civilization was born from people who were drinking wine from toddler to their deathbed, gallons of it. And then 18th century came, and tea, coffee, and chocolate came into the Western market. You can sanitize water by boiling it, and on top of it, it's a different type of drug. It's something that brings a lot of energy, a lot of thinking. Wine didn't have any chance at that level, but at the same time, it's really bad for wine. The beer and the hard liquor industry started to be really bringing interesting product on the market. So that the wine industry literally couldn't compete at any level. You didn't need wine to sanitize water, and if you really want to get drunk, people have a good chance to go for hard liquor. So they had to reinvent the whole game that has been going on for millennia. And they decided to go from quantity to quality. And Paul Lucas put it really well. One would have never become popular if it didn't provide pleasure. But it's not the pleasure of drunkenness, it's the pleasure of drinking the wine that makes the wine industry what it is today, which is a very interesting approach. And Bordeaux was the center of it. Bordeaux was the biggest export port of wine and a wine region since the Roman Empire. And quality was born in Bordeaux through an association of the vineyard and the Chamber of Commerce of Bordeaux. They created the first hierarchy of quality, which was actually sponsored by Napoleon III for one of those big world fair where every country was coming and showing their best product. That was the beginning of the appellation, but to create that hierarchy of quality, because they didn't have any record and very few wine actually that could stand time without becoming vinegar and being still good. The whole hierarchy was brought about reputation. You needed a long-standing reputation of your region first. Then you needed to show in your product consistent characteristic of the very place where that product is grown, wine for that in that instance, and a public recognition of it. That means that you literally needed a world recognition before you could define a terroir. And there is no terroir on the planet that are looked at if there is not a high-end quality product coming from that region and the recognition for that product. There is no terroir that has been looked at without that start. So what is a terroir? Terroir is a French name that is very difficult to translate because it represents a whole approach to agriculture in a certain way. It's made, how can I go back? Oh. It's made of normally the land first. I'm missing the tape. Oh. So the terroir is made of 4 elements. The first is the land. The land is the very life giver. It's made of billions of years of evolution between living organisms and a planet. There is no planet in the universe like Earth because there is billions of years of co-evolution between living organisms and the planet itself. That is the base, that is the life giver, that is the very essence of the terroir. And then you have the climate. The climate is a life shaper. The amount of rain and the season, everything is shaping whatever is growing. Even the very living organism, humanity, is shaped by the climate and the land where we live. We were all born in the same place, and there is so much diversity because the planet made it so. And then there is a cultivar. The cultivar is literally shaped and enhanced by the land and the climate. And there is a farmer, and the farmer community that supports that ecosystem, that living organism. The farmer becomes truly a part of the land he's working with, to the point, like I said earlier, there is in south of France, in Provence, the capital of lavender. There is one farm that is growing a lavender that is unique on the planet, that is an appellation d'origine contrôlée. It's a branding that proves the world that there is nobody on the planet that can do exactly the same thing that you do. The appellations are actually very old. It started in 1400 when the French Parliament actually wrote a decree to protect Roquefort. So we are really connected with our food and our wine. We take it very seriously, but that appreciation of the product is totally conscious. There is a consciousness of what produces that quality. The one appellation took a minute to put together. The first hierarchy of quality was made in 1855. Then the first French law actually on the viticulture designation came in 1905. The protection of the place of origin came in 1905. 1919, and it took so long to actually finally have the government create an entity that protects and define the terroir, that source of uniqueness and quality that can be recognized worldwide. These appellations are geographical name protection. For us in the Emerald Triangle, it's very important that nobody use our name, because there is only 2 places on the planet that can ask for a terroir to be defined in their territory. One is a village in a very remote valley of the Himalaya called Malana. The Malana cream is known the world over for its quality, and there is the Emerald Triangle. So, for us to be able to protect names that are recognized worldwide and define quality, it's very important. It's a protection of the craft and the craftsman also, very much so. And because this quality can be made only if you follow those specific standard of craftsmanship. Otherwise, you will never get it. And that value is like, it is a marketing tool, but that marketing tool is really come from quality. The very essence of that protection is the production of quality and the dedication to quality. And it's a protection of the national heritage, literally, for countries like France and many others around the world. Those appellations, it protect your heritage. If you look at the label of that Margaux is one of the first wine of that Bordeaux hierarchy. As you can see, it's everything about the place and nothing about the actual winemaker. Most of these places define themselves as domain and chateau, but actually those chateaux and domain were built in the early 1900s. There is no heritage long term to high-end quality wine. We did not know how to make quality wine before the end of the 18th century. So it's a whole makeup story. This is the biggest marketing twist ever done by anybody in the history of humanity. How you can transform 8,000 years of mass-produced, closely vinegar type of wine to only producing high-end and creating the story to go with it, because the story is very important. People like that heritage that rich in the past. The complexity of terroir. As you see all those colored regions, every one of those colors is a different terroir. And you can see that some colors disappear and reappear into other terroirs. This is Bordeaux. It's an alluvial plain. There is no geographic region. It's all flat. But the terroir needs 6 sciences to define. And you can define very specific characteristic of production through knowing the soil. And this is something very important for us to understand in California, because if you look at what the wine industry created in California, they didn't want to deal with all the hardcore standardization that the French, other country using appellation, and the European community is using. They needed the freedom to create the great wine that they have today. So it's region. And as much as an agricultural region is important, a terroir is a very defined place in that region. So you lose that specification of very characteristic place, while you have the freedom to play with more wine and characteristic of wine to create the great wine that they did today. But at the same time now, in cannabis, for the longest time, I needed to prove that there is a terroir. That was my main thought. And it's pretty easy in a certain way for me to define terroir because I experience it, specifically in India, where you literally stick live resin on your hand at the peak of the flowering cycle. And in northern India, you have wild cannabis that has been there for almost 400,000 years, and you have cultivated cannabis, and you have the in-between, field that went back to wildness. And from valley to valley, you can really taste and see and feel the difference. And when you actually do wild cannabis jungle, if your plants are growing in a wild field of strawberry, well, your resin is going to pretty much taste like a strawberry. Or when they grow into bushes of wild nut, the plant is taking the terpene profile literally of its habitat, and it creates amazing diversity. When you have a cultivated field and you let it go back to wildness, you have a huge amount of diversity. You have every color and every flavor of fruit that you can imagine. But at the end of the day, you have a cocktail of fruit in your hand, and what the ash that you smell in your hand, it's not the smell of your field. And the smell of the field and the taste of the ash is going to change from field to field. So that relation with the plant, even if I didn't really use the word terroir at the time, that's what defined quality. Not me making the ash in those mountains, but how far did I go in those mountains and what type of plant I work with that really made the quality. To understand the power of adaptation of the plant, we need to know her evolution and life. Because not so long ago, Ruderalis, indica, and sativa were cannabis species for us, which is not. Last year, they finally discovered the very birthplace of cannabis. Cannabis separated from the Humulus family, from the hop family, 28 million years ago in the high plateau of Tibet. The plant took 22 million years to follow the corridor of all the ash country to reach Europe and the Mediterranean Sea. And this is all pretty desertic type of climate. It took almost 6 million more to jump from the plateau into the more tropical side of China, and it took almost 6 million years to actually jump the Himalaya and go into at the feet of the Himalaya on those tropical places. The plant took a long time to transform and adapt to its new habitat. I have no date for the Ruderalis, I'm sorry. Since we don't have to prove that we have a cannabis terroir, the quality of the cannabis grown in the Emerald Triangle is known the world over. Now we have to define this place and protect that heritage. And it is a small triangle, but it's made of a lot of valley with a lot of microclimate that is very, very changing, and there is no really two place difference. There is no two place where you can grow a plant, doesn't matter the cultivar, that is going to be really similar. And this creates what there is in the wine industry, a quality that can be unique to a very specific farm. So that when you're a small farm, you don't want to grow many genetic. You want to grow that very one that is not a fake, that is so unique that you know anybody testing it will remember it and want more. That's all you need. And you need, for this, you need to be able to have the land and the climate giving the full expression of that plant. To define a terroir in France, they apply six sciences. The soil science, that is a double science. Agronomy, that is very much already a part of humanity and the land and the climate and the cultivar, and everything else is very much based on the communities that actually support that quality. It's much more than the farmer. It's that whole community that support quality. Quality is more than a concept. Quality, it's a way of life. And in many countries in Europe, we take it very, very seriously because that is part of our heritage, it's part of our culture. Cannabis appellation. So, cannabis appellation is going to be pretty complicated because first we have to try to study 3 generations of farming in the most remote and secretive place in California with people who even now when they enter the Emerald Cup, they don't give their real name. There is still a strong police raid going on in the mountain. It's like those people are not really, don't have the ability to express themselves and really show that what they have in the closet, what has been grown for 3 generations on the same farm. If we want to play it the French way, those appellations are protected worldwide. Nobody dare using those appellations. You cannot use the word Bordeaux or Cognac or Champagne. But at the same time, they bring a lot of limitations that for the cannabis, that were not good for the wine industry, but will be certainly very good for the cannabis industry because we need to classify all the quality, all the diversity that we have, and we need to understand fully our terroir, our land, the microbial life in it. So we're gonna basically have to create it the Californian way. But to create it the Californian way, we're gonna need to start creating a vocabulary that is gonna be common and accepted worldwide. We need a hierarchy of quality because it's easy to say that your stuff is the best if there is no comparison to the best produce in that country. We need a scoring system. We need to be able to order flower from Germany to Canada, and if I want such a strain with this very specific terpene profile, it's like buying coffee in Java. I can have exactly the coffee I want because we speak the same language. We don't have that. It's nice to go into a world trade, but we have nothing basic to be able to even exchange basic concept of quality and need and terpene profile expression. It's a bit scary. And for us in California, if we want to go from quality to quantity or stay into quality, we have to look at a world market. And took Morocco because Morocco is basically the same superficies than California. Morocco, like California, didn't produce ash before the late 16th century, 1960. The growing region of Morocco is hardly bigger than the Emerald Triangle, and the actually source of cannabis is more or less the same size than the Emerald Triangle if we put all the cultivation sites together. Morocco produced 35% of the world production of hashish. California, not so long ago, was producing 80% of the US consumption. So, literally, I know that in California, we have the means to become global just from the Emerald Triangle. And normally it's a video, but I cannot show you. This is the lower part of the garden of a farm I visited in Morocco. There is 800,000 plants planted, feminicide, water. The guy has 3 million plants in his 3 little farm. So when you think quantity, you have to think that the people you're gonna, oh, it was, no. You have to think that your competition are, it does. It's pretty impressive. The problem for them, it's pretty difficult to dry 3 million plants.
Yeah.
Okay? In good condition. So there is that aspect where in producing countries, they know that they can produce a lot, but they know that with the world market legal, the bad products that they have will never fly again. So they're looking to produce quality. They are the opposite of they know that they hold the quantity, but if they want to produce quality, they're gonna have to change their game. For us in California, to really be able to play that appellation game, basically the government has to protect the farmer and nurture them. We really have to embrace our heritage, and for that we need the help of the government at the highest level. It's like when you have a state that is spending $100 million busting farmer, when the farmers are actually waiting for their license because there is not enough money given to the government to actually give the license, it's a little crazy. And if we want to create the industry of the future, we really need to embrace it in California and play it the same way that the wine industry did it, to be standing for quality above everything and create the standard that made the wine industry what it is today. We don't have such a window of opportunity, and there is no place in the world at that moment that has the right to go for a terroir. So it's very important, but at the same time, there is sun-grown is terroir. You need that land and the climate, but there is a lot of greenhouse and indoor farmers that feel rejected because they are not part of that. Fine, why don't you create your own standard of quality? It's not sun-grown appellation, but you can, the standards are only made to create quality. That's the name of the game. There is nothing behind those appellations but a dedication to quality. So if you want your greenhouse to be at that level, you can create it, but you need that standardization that can support such an amazing concept, making quality. Thank you.
Sir? Frenchie?
Yeah.
All right, so it's that time where we get to take a short break, 10 minutes now. coffee break and such. We got 3 TED Talks real quick coming up. Adam Coates is up, Terry Donnelly, and Brent Williams is going to talk about investing in hemp. And of course, we have the big close and Matt Barron. And if you have not seen this presentation, absolutely dynamic personality, something really going to take away some great things from that presentation. And of course, our illustrious host is going to be back, Tony Chapman. So that's pretty exciting as it is. So get yourself some coffee, some water, whatever it is. Come back in 10 minutes and we'll get things going again with that.